Hello and welcome to the Best Today podcast. I am your host, Shante Grant, owner, founder of Best Today. And today and the remainder of this month, I'm intentionally going to try to keep these episodes 10 minutes or less. These episodes are airing in the month of December 2023. And I know it's a time where you may be a little short on time for podcasts. So I'm going to keep it short, or I'm going to do my best. Okay, here we go. So today, what I want to talk to you about is something that might be on your mind, regardless of what time of year you're listening to this episode, and that is planning. And that happens to be one of my specialities. And planning of all sorts. But I want to just give you 3 things today that that you want to include in your plans. And this is any kind of plan: a wedding plan, plan for your life, plan for work, plan for anything. So my hope is that in giving you these 3 things, it really simplifies and de-stresses how you may or may not feel about planning. So let's get straight to them. Number 1, you got to know the things you want to accomplish, right? What is it that you're trying to do? Write that down in your plan, right? Some people use the word goals, like what goals you have, but you can call them whatever you want. You can call them literally fluffies, hair bows, leaves, whatever you want, right? If the word goal makes you feel some kind of way, don't use it because it's not necessary. What you want to know at the end of the day when you're planning something is, what's the purpose? Why am I doing this? What does the end result look like? Write that down. That simple. Number 2, you need to know the steps to get to the thing you just put in number 1, right? And you're going to start with what you already know, because I don't want to hear you say, well, but what if I don't know? Okay. We're not going to get to the things and the what ifs. We're going to deal with what is. Okay. So scratch out the what ifs for what is. We're going to change that F for an S, right? These are where you're writing down those small steps that must be done in order to get to the finish line, or whatever it is you put in your number 1, the thing you want to accomplish. Now, what I don't want you to do is to start thinking in terms of to-dos and to-do lists. I talk about that in episode 31, I believe, of the podcast. We'll link to it here in the show notes. But in that episode, I talk about why I do not use or recommend the use of traditional to-do lists, okay? Go listen to episode 31 if you want to hear more on that. And if you haven't listened, or if it's been a while, go back and listen to that. Okay. But what you want to do instead are think about what are the outcomes you need along the way, right? Because if you start thinking in terms of the results of the outcomes you need, that's what's going to get you there, right? You can do a lot of things that make no progress, what I call treadmill movement, right? Where we're moving, we're doing things. And that's what to-do lists sometimes can get full of. We want to just know what are the things that we know we need to do to get there. Those results and outcomes, we're going to break down into teeny tiny small steps. And those are going to become just the little ways you make progress consistently over time for however amount of time you're going to be working through this plan. Which brings me to number 3. So number 1, the things you want to accomplish. Number 2, the steps along the way that you know of for now. That's all we're going to start with, right? And number 3, your time boundaries that you're going to fulfill them in. When are you going to do the thing you want to do? Create the boundaries before you need them so that they're in place and so that you're set when it comes time to plan your months, your weeks, your days, right? From this time to this time, this is when I'm going to work on this thing, or on these days, or in this, this point in this week, or in this week in the months, this point in the quarter, whatever that looks like for you, you want to have that well defined. So when you're thinking about plans, if you're thinking about planning at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, quarter into the year, whenever, those 3 things will always be present regardless of what you're planning, because you, 1, have to know what's the point of this plan? What we doing here? Like, why we here? What we doing? Right? That becomes this is how we know when we've done the thing. This is what we know success looks like, completion looks like, finish line looks like, right? There's that. Number 2, here are the things that have to happen before this can get done, or that will lead us to getting this thing done. Here are the steps that we're aware of. Here's the thing about this. Along the way, you're going to uncover and discover other things that need to be done, but we're not worried about that right now. That's not of our concern. There's enough to get started. You just got to know, where do we start, right? That's number 2, writing down those things. And number 3, what are the time boundaries we're going to fulfill them in? And we're going to make these decisions beforehand. Whether that looks like during the week, this is when I work on it. During the day, this is when I work on it. During a given month, this is where I work on it. You want to have those time boundaries set so that you can just really obey them, as opposed to trying to make them in real time. And then your mind plays those fun games of, well, that's not enough time to do that. And I don't know which part to do. And I don't know. And there we are. We've wasted an entire day, week, hour that could have been spent actually moving you and making progress toward the thing that matters for you. Okay. At Best Today, we exist to help women just like you be your best one today at a time. So each week on the podcast, we are going to highlight your stories and your voices. So let's see what's in the inbox today. Today, we have a 5-star review of our Not Waiting for January class, and it reads, very motivational. This class calls out the tendencies we have that lead us to procrastination and perfectionism. Shante identifies the things we do or tell ourselves that allow us to put things off or reduce our consistency. She explains how to relabel them and the action steps to take the right kind of action to be productive now, not later. Thank you so much for this 5-star review and for sharing your experience in the Not Waiting for January. Just like the class says, this class is teaching you how to stop waiting for January or the beginning of a year or any quote unquote perfect time to get started with the things you know you want to do in and for your life. Come and learn the barriers that have likely been blocking you to this point, and also how to best strengthen your consistency muscle and get started with optimizing your time. You can get the replay right now. The great thing is you can hit pause, take notes, and there's a box that we have so that you can submit questions to us in real time and we will answer you. So go to notwaitingforjanuary.com. You will get immediate access to this replay once you place your order. So go right now. You're about 1 to 2 minutes away from getting started with Not Waiting for January, the class replay, by going to notwaitingforjanuary.com. So when it comes to your planning, those are just 3 things I want you to understand. What do you want to accomplish? What has to be done to do it? And what are the time boundaries that you have to fulfill them? That simple in getting started with any kind of planning. Now, if you want to plan with me right there with you, if you're listening in time, I want to invite you to the Best Today community. We're having our end of the year planning session on December 7th at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. It's going to last about an hour and a half. Come and join us. We're going to talk about all things planning, talk it out, plan together. I plan to have my things out as well, and I'm looking forward to it. But the key is always to start with what you have, where you are, and what you know. Okay. You can start right now with what you have, with where you are, and with what you know. And then again, if you love talking about planning in real detail, not only about the things that you're going to do, but most importantly about you, your life, the things that matter, I want to invite you to join us in 2024 at the Best Today conference. It is taking place in Greenville, South Carolina, April 12th and 13th, which is a Friday and a Saturday. The theme is presence and planning, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty detail of planning for you and your life, but in the most fun way, in the most fun environment, surrounded by other people who, like you, want to live a life of intention. There we are, the 3 steps, and I did it in under 10 minutes. So now I just want to say thank you so much for being present with me for this week's episode of the Best Today podcast. Please know that the best way to support this podcast is by leaving a review, sharing it with a friend, and letting me know your favorite parts each week and what questions you have. We make it really easy for you to do that. You can email us at any time at hello@besttoday.co, not .com, but .co, or leaving a voice message, which can be done on any device, besttoday.co/voice. That's besttoday.co/voice. Please, I love hearing from you, hearing your questions. So type it to us via email or drop it off through your throat at besttoday.co/voice. To learn more and hear more from me, I also invite you to read and subscribe to my online publication, For Those on the Journey. That's you at forthoseonthejourney.com. We'll have that linked here in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of the Best Today podcast. I hope that wherever it reaches you, that in your body right now, you are well and you are present. There are more episodes for you to discover at besttoday.com. So if you'd like to listen to them, you can do so at besttodaypodcast.com or go to besttoday.co/podcast where we have them broken down by category. Happy listening, and thanks again for being present with me today. This podcast is provided for you every week by Best Today, where we are on a mission to help you to live and work well. We do this by creating resources that bring intention to how you plan, schedule, work, and live. You can get started in one of 3 easy ways. First, by taking our product quiz at besttoday.co/quiz. 2, joining us in our online community, the Best Today community, at besttoday.co/community. Or 3, connect with us through email at besttoday.co/email, all of which are linked below in the show notes. To learn more about our company and what we do, visit besttoday.co and join thousands of customers around the world pursuing a life of intention, one today at a time.